Well, my assistant told me there were three too, so we'll go there, right? Two building planning teams, Lakeshore and then Cicero. So Lakeshore, John, you here? Let it go. Thank you. It's a building planning team. It is, really, yeah. Something different, that's all.
Happening at Lakeshore. You're going to see a little bit different Lakeshore thing because this is support here, but it's also our third. Sorry, now I was a little. Yeah, that's all that up. At Lakeshore Road Elementary School. James Freeman is grade 1. Benny Popoff, grade. A little bit of information about it. Instructions to make sure. That we unveil the new. So we thought it's important. So just like Charles Dickens. Listen a minute. Brand, that's what we spent a lot. Presently, we're making. making connections.
Questions for John? Anybody?
So,
Okay, good, yeah. Asked and answered.
so this is your second BPT.
Yes.
Congratulations. So this is very different from what we've seen in the past with a lot of test statistics, and I definitely prefer this method better, teaching the students life skills that they can use, how to be good citizens, getting them involved in identifying the brand. I think those are all great things, and I just want to congratulate.
So it's not just the number.
Well, and how you stress, too, that it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to take chances, and you may not be successful every time, and how to support your other classmates, and it's not all about themselves.
I just want to thank you, John, and I also see one of your BPT members back there coming as well. Thank you for coming out, and thank you for your presentation. Nice job.
Thank you, John. We have Cicero, Kathy?
Good evening, and thank you for having us tonight. I want to introduce the members of my BPT that are here tonight, and they're all going to take part in our Michelle Kohler is a kindergarten teacher. This is her first year in kindergarten, and she's loving it. Tina Perno is grade at Cicero L for the first time this year. She came. Holly Lee is our second grade teacher. Alyssa Dickens in first grade, and Mindy Bristol, our teaching assistant. I'd like to talk to you about Cicero L.
So when you look at a standards-based grading, it really breaks down these. Some of the challenges with that scheduling and finding time to. Presentation was brought to you tonight by the Cicero Elementary BPT. List- Questions for any of us?
I do have one. Just I'll try and see if I can make sense out of my question. See if my voice works. We were talking about recording assessment. Wondered what, I'm assuming when you've identified essential standards by grade level, are there common assessments?
We're in the process of building those. Yeah, have essential standards picked up. PLC groups of building.
So
Oh, no, we do a mixture. Not just on Mastery Connect, but we do. I haven't tried that. I haven't tried that yet, but a couple of my teammates have.
Questions?
I just want to say you did a great job. Just can you tell us a little more about the chipper morning? The chipper morning.
Provided for us by P2. Yeah.
So every day on our school website, there's a link for Chipper Morning Show, and every day, they're all on there from day one. So every day, there's something about the Positivity Project on the Chipper.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, you could binge. You could spend, Christmas break binging on.
So I just want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. I think you did a great job in terms of describing kind of where you are with the work that all of the BPTs are doing. Are further along at Cicero L than some of the buildings. But also, I think your presentation gave us a real feel for what the school is like. So,
Remember to look at our bulletin board tonight. When you get a chance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, Bear Road Elementary update. Cook and Paul and Todd and John. We're showing a PowerPoint here. I assume you're going to bring it up. And John, 2 Johns. Yeah. Over. Good old days, Charlie. Get me in trouble.
I see some from Pablo Bar with Watchdog Building Partner. Back in November 9th, 2015. To talk about the project. SED review period. Budget that was established in July of contracts and site contracts. Had a number of districts.
couple things. So we don't often have the opportunity to road. So it's not like we've got a project that's uniquely different. Todd pointed out, the numbers that we've used been reevaluated and escalated for 5 years now. Air Road. The difference is this very unique position we're in right now, perfect storm of a tremendous and without the both in labor factors, material fluctuations that are related to tariffs and other rising and falling of commodities. You can put a finger on that puts everybody in the design and construction. Everybody's trying to predict what exactly it means. Todd, this team has worked together for years. We stay on top of this the best that we can. Started in the last 3 months to start to see these trends. Every other district and every other project, we're try to be as proactive as we Fair Road is a project that's been in design now years, scope that we've all identified. Not an easy thing to start cutting work out because it is a complete renovation. Start to chop this thing up into pieces and parts, you're not going to get the project.
And I just want to tag on to everything else, and that's kind of a byproduct. What's your timeline, and what is the anticipated approval date? We've gone through third party, that was cleared, went back to state ed, and project manager called, wanted more data on all of the other elementaries as well. Has that data been supplied to her, and what's, yeah,
It's in process.
okay,
She's
right,
for all elementaries.
yeah,
Right now, we just got the final floor.
okay,
So
good.
we appreciate the extra effort from the district. I are going through the floor plan, trying to check the BAUs,
Yeah.
looking at the red flags that are going to be beneficial to you.
Yes, they do. Yeah. Given the time of year, looking with the folks at state aid and some of the stuff I do, and we think on December 21st they're going to disappear until January 2, in all likelihood. So given that time frame, when do you think Sigrid will bless this thing and say, yeah, it's approved, go ahead and put it on the street?
Been down this road with Sigrid
Yeah.
before, so we'll stay on top of it the best we can. Our goal is to get this project out on the street as quickly.
In practical terms, that's going to be early January, probably, right? And how long on the street before it comes back to you with bids? So early February. So you're back here in mid-February with real numbers.
Ahead with,
Yeah.
45 days.
Yeah, I'm thinking, well, yeah, if it's mid-February, when you come back with real numbers and we put a plan together, that's late February, 60 days out with the voters, now you're in late April. We're talking about a May vote. I'm looking at Don.
They're trying to get it in April.
But if it's mid-February before you've got numbers and,
Well,
and
there's a lot of-
recommendations, there's no way we're going to vote that quickly.
We were gonna have the 45-day clock start.
Well, the clock doesn't start till you hit the newspaper. That's when the clock starts.
So, Mike, I think in a perfect world, we'd have all these dates lined. That resolved.
Yeah,
Projects
yeah.
right now.
I've got another district, yeah.
I've been excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we get excitable on a daily basis. So anyway, so we'll deal with that. We have time and we don't have time. So we get that done. Then we get it out in the street, or make the decision of what we're going to do with it, and
Yeah.
deal with those things. It's too close to the budget
The
vote.
budget vote, that's the problem.
Well, yeah, then you have a different
Because,
budget vote. Do you separate?
there's questions of availability of machines and times and dates and dragging the voters out twice in a tight time frame. So,
Well, I have a question because, I see all the emails that come from SED and we think we're making progress and then they ask for more information like they did last week. So even with your plan to get that additional information to them by the end of the week, and I do want to thank all the administrators that I saw scrambling last week with their floor plan. You're anticipating hearing something back from them, let's say practically by the beginning of January. Is there a chance that they're still going to come up with yet another hoop for us to jump through and ask for additional information?
yes,
Which,
yes.
We don't, okay, so the reality is it's an elementary school. It's one of the easier buildings to deal about because there's not a lot of variations with how we generate it. Can't anticipate what their issues might be that we need to react to. Can't imagine there's going to be too many other options. Just going to be a negotiation over. Got enough flexibility with the 8 to date in the budget. Not too concerned about it. We just have to work through the system with it. So there's always that, Annette. There's always that possibility. We've seen it. We expect it, and then sometimes it's there, and sometimes it's not. Trying to get the information.
So right now, we'll look to early January to have you guys back to tell us what the status is. Approved.
can get it
I
done
think
quicker.
January 7th is our first meeting in January.
And officially report that we
Right,
only by the third party review.
okay.
SED reviews it, yeah,
So you just need to keep the project manager happy,
so we're down to that
and,
third.
yeah, okay. And coincidence, I know another district today got the same email, but from a different project manager. Give me all the elementaries.
Party line right now.
Yeah, they want to make sure we're not overbuilding elementaries in total. You need more room in one, and you got room over here. They say move the kids. Yeah, that's what it's about. Is not creating too big a building when you got room in another.
And gating factor for North Syracuse is very low.
Six.
Catchment areas and Sort of very familiar with it. SED as a map space with a number of students, and geez, got room over here.
Yeah.
Create the storyline for that.
So I guess we'll anticipate January 7, coming back with good news, we hope. Ready to go on the street OR, and we'll go from there. Any questions from anybody here, please?
I do.
Yeah.
Just so I understand it, so the original budgets that were presented that the taxpayers voted on, that was based on the numbers from Smith Road's renovation? Correct? Is that what I heard?
Well, I think we looked at it. We looked at it several different ways. So, we looked at cost per as a second measure to make sure that we were, as a second check, we went back and looked at Smith Road, escalated the actual construction cost of Smith Road up that date in 2015 or 16, testing Bear Road as a double check, and those numbers were another way to make sure that we square foot costs back in 2015 or 16, that time with the inflation we knew about.
And so now, the way you're estimating it, it looks like it will be $1.1 million higher. Is that
Almost 5.
almost $5 million higher?
Almost 5, yeah. It's 21.9 as opposed to 16.6. It's 5.3.
So this amount, when we will have to go back to the taxpayers, and it will be fall on the shoulders of the taxpayers? That's what I'm asking.
Well, I'm going to give you a presentation in a minute, and maybe that'll shed some light on what our financial position is, and might be able to. It's not our intention to ask the taxpayers to pay more. Fingers crossed, though, depending on the numbers.
And we'll know once the bids are accepted what that really is up there. Yeah. This should be the high. I'll look at Todd and say this should be the high end. Yeah. Hopefully the real numbers will be lower than that.
And this is something the Watchdog group is monitoring? Is anyone here from Watchdog tonight?
Yeah, Todd's right here.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
Todd? Okay.
Yeah. There are a lot of, I don't know about a lot, but there are some other districts that, again, I work with for a living, that have had to go back already for millions more, or anticipating. They said the bid numbers are just coming in. They can't find workers. It's that simple. And
Not a huge region when it comes to
no, we're not.
hitting the street within. Have $100 million worth of work on the street. All been sharing information. Happier, but there's just a ton of.
One district I work with had their walkthrough. Now, you guys aren't involved in. They had one GC, one general contractor show up on a $27 million project. They had one general contractor show up for the walkthrough. So they're scared to death that if he's the only bidder, they're going to be way, way over. So everybody's, all the construction managers, all the architects that I work with, the workers are just not there. It's unfortunately, young people want to play with computers and do technology. Working with the hands is not something that people want to get into now. And boy, those jobs pay well, and it's good work, and it's steady work. But people are just not getting into them. You know, and now we're paying the price for it. Like Cook said, demand is up, but supply's not even there. So that supply-demand curve just goes straight up on the price. Really tough.
How do you go about putting that?
We have contractors that we're all very familiar with. Projects that we make sure that we contractor pool around here. Projects, the timing, type of work. The type of work is critical. contractors will bid on projects that are pace, their staffing, and type of construction activities that specialty areas are further hurt. Auditoriums or any projects because they just don't. Todd was right. Masons, you can't find a mason. Good last summer, prices seem to be stabilized, and now we're all working. Not in the union halls, they don't exist. The recession hit a lot of design construction badly in that architecture, they left. Tenants are
Not old.
No, I agree, Mike. I'm not saying it.
Come on. Killing me here.
But in any case,
Take that how you will.
it is somewhat of a perfect
Yeah, it
storm
is.
of a lot of things. So we're all.
Yeah.
We really do have a special project here. Venting to the very more than a year. Just hoping that those guys that we really like.
Should be a good project. One they want to get into.
Wish we had better news, but
You've heard of our positivity project.
we
haven't
have.
See, I tried to say
We are trying to be as positive.
I tried to say something positive.
you? Okay.
So let's hope that January 7th is I'll say a positive message. That, hey, we've got the approval, we're on the street, we're going to have real numbers, this is our timeline, and again, hoping that real numbers are less than what we're looking at up there. So, any other questions, comments, anybody? Not great news, but it's the world the way it is right now. Not much we can do. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Don is on. I'm sorry, Don.
Well, that's a tough act to follow. But buckle up. Your favorite season, budget season, has officially begun. I think there's some data in this presentation that might help think about the last presentation. So without further ado, let me jump in. This is our kind of our first budget presentation. I'm going to talk a little bit about the district's financial condition, fund balance, and reserves. We're going to look at the local economic factors, our revenue assumptions, expenditure assumptions, and talk about our budget timeline. I think one thing, you guys might remember some of these numbers. Our auditors just recently reported them to us this fall. We ended the year last year with about $6.5 million in our unassigned fund balance. Our unassigned fund balance is the district savings account. We were just under 4%. Unfortunately, though, before the end of the year, we had to pay part of our penalty, our final cost report penalty of about $2.2 million. And we received that money back. When the governor forgave that, we got the money back, which was great news, and that's all going to go right into fund balance. Well, that's going to push our fund balance over 5.3%. And so there's $2.2 million right there we could use to fund the Bear Road project excesses. And so we'll see what the rest of the year brings. It's really too early to predict what our other revenues and expenditure variances will be, but that's one piece of good news as we try to wrestle with this Bear Road challenge. Reserves haven't really changed very much. Most of our minor increases due to projected interest income on those invested funds. Our debt service fund is down. As you know, we appropriate some money every year, and we're using some amount of debt service each year. So we're down from 9.4 to about 9.2. But let's talk about the economic factors. As you know, our tax cap is based on the CPI, and our annual tax levy is limited to the lesser of 2% or the Consumer Price Index. So let's look at what's happened in the CPI this year. Since January of 18, you can see on a 12-month basis, that's the column to the right, that the CPI has been over 2% consistently this year. To refresh your memory, last year for 2017, the number we used for the 18-19 budget was 2.13%, so we used 2%. I'm anticipating that our tax cap this year will be based on a 2% inflation number, that CPI number. Local economy, well, the local economy impacts on employment, it affects enrollment, and the growth and decline in our tax base. Consistent with the national and state economy, our local economy has really been doing well for the last 5 years. We continue to see, and Dan and I talk about this regularly, new housing development in the northern part of our district. I'm going to show you some enrollment charts and share with you our thoughts on that. We've got a significant amount of rental property in the district, including apartment complexes that continue to buoy our enrollment, and we have a lot of tax tertiary activity. And it'll be interesting to see where that activity goes as property values continue to be buoyed by the strong economy. More numbers than you really need to see here, but this really speaks to what the gentlemen were talking about moments ago about the local employment scene. We are right now, this is obviously our unemployment rates since 2012. If you go back to 2012, we had rates over 9%. Right now, we're at 3.7% unemployment, the lowest rate in central New York in 18 years. That's effectively full employment. So when Kirk said there's just no one there to hire these contractors, that's a perfect illustration of the employment situation. So it's great that people are employed, certainly good for the economy, but it creates a lot of challenges when we're trying to hire food service workers, bus drivers, and obviously contractors to do our projects. This chart simply just shows the unemployment rate over time, and that's what an improving economy looks like. You've seen this chart before, and so the bars are our enrollment, and what it's basically showing is that our enrollment continues to decline, but modestly. The economic status of our community continues to decline, meaning we have, although enrollment is declining, our students with either that are economically disadvantaged or disabled continues to increase. We're seeing increases in our special ed population as well as our free and reduced lunch population. This chart looks at enrollment over a longer period of time, and while we're in 2018 right there, and about 83, 88 as our enrollment. We're predicting we're going to lose, anywhere from 100 to 150, 200 kids a year over the next several years. But at some point, this enrollment should level off due to the size of our district and the amount of real estate development. So we remain optimistic that in the next couple of years, this is going to level off. And so just on that point. We know, because we're so close to this, when state ed is asking us to share the information about our 6 elementary schools, there's no way we could do without an elementary school. We are not in a situation, and I feel very fortunate to be working at the North Syracuse Central School District, because other districts are struggling with the possibility of closing buildings. Based on our enrollment, I just don't see that happening anytime in the foreseeable future, where we truly have significant amounts of excess real estate. So revenue assumptions. I think, I want to remind everybody the election's over. I think we had a good, about as good as year in terms of getting state aid last year. And it'll be interesting to see what New York State does this year in terms of state aid. But I think there'll be less of spreading the pork around, so to speak, in terms of state aid for schools. I've already talked about the real property taxes. It'll be based on 2% likely. On the building aid side, thank goodness we don't have the final cost penalty hanging over our head anymore, but we do have something that I want to just remind you guys that State Ed has the right to look at all of the building projects that they financed, and if the implicit rate, the rate in which they assumed we'd finance the project, is significantly higher than the actual rate, they can actually lower our state aid. And so that's something we watch, and we apply for exemptions on projects. The states have a methodology for us to do that. We look at our projects, we make sure that we pay attention to it, and we also hope that our legislators will not allow these adjustments to come through. But we have to watch that. And then smart schools. We're still spending smart schools money. And our technology programs have really benefited from that. But it has no impact, I just want to remind you, it has no impact on the general fund. Foundation aid continues to be an issue. To refresh everybody's memory, simple story here, the single largest component of state aid that we receive is a thing called foundation aid. The formulas say we should be getting this year $55.2 million. We're going to get $45.9 million. It's about a $9.2 million shortfall. And it's a big issue because it really comes down to fiscal equity in terms of making sure that schools are properly funded so we can provide a sound basic education. And North Syracuse is one of those schools. About a third of the schools in the state are in this situation where we are significantly underfunded versus the formulas that drive the aid that we're supposed to be getting. Other expenditure assumptions, looking at our health benefits, we've had good experience with this. We hope that our experience continues, positive experience continues, and another big component is retirement costs, and the early indications are that TRS rates will be coming down, ERS rates will be staying flat. On the salaries and wages side, many of our contracts will expire on June 30th, 2019, so we don't know the contractual terms right now because negotiations are just in the beginning stages. Our fuel costs, this has been a favorable but volatile market as we think about the fuel we use for transportation. But I want to remind you that we get a pretty high level of transportation aid, 78%. So to the extent that we do get savings at the pump, we get less aid. So we only really recognize about 22% of any dollar being saved at the pump. Energy costs, through BOCES, we participate in the NISMIC consortium, where we lock into 3-year supply agreements, and we are in an agreement now that will run through 2021, so our budget will reflect those contracted rates. And BOCES, we're always looking for opportunities to control costs and to provide better services for our students. That's pretty much the rundown on our major expenditures. One of the things that I'm particularly proud of, and I don't know whether Dan and Annette want to chime in here and make a comment, but this chart shows, it's a little hard to read, but it shows the top 6 school districts in central New York. We have whited out the names other than North Syracuse, and it shows that our class sizes for the common branch grades 1 to 6 are lower or comparable to the lowest here in OCM BOCES. So, that's something the board has talked a lot about, cabinet's talked a lot about, our teachers have talked a lot about. The importance of maintaining or obtaining low class sizes. You can see North Syracuse went from having 23.3 students on average down to 21.6. And finally, our budget process timeline. So you guys approved the calendar in October. In the November through February timeframe, principals, directors, and cabinet and board subcommittee will be developing that initial budget. We reviewed the budget assumptions today. We'll give you a little status, very brief status on the 17th of December, and we'll be holding our breath, waiting for the governor's budget proposal in January, preliminary tax cap calculations, and maybe a little better projection of fund balance and reserves once we have a little more of the year under our belt. Looking at the initial budget in February, the end of February, and then we're kind of in the barrel in March and early April as we try to wrap up the budget and get the board to adopt a budget in April. And the election this year is on May 21st. It's about a week later than it was last year. So the budget season will just be a little bit longer. Any Any questions or comments? Yes?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So you said that if we estimate some of our projects, the SED might not give us that much money
Well,
next time.
Oh, I was referring to the interest rates. So what happens when they give us aid on a project? I think that was the chart I was referring to, building aid.
Yeah.
So what they do is when they give us aid, when they build those estimates, they assume the rate at which we're going to finance the projects. Well, a couple things, like anybody else, we refinance our mortgage sometimes. We get a better mortgage rate than maybe was assumed when the aid was calculated. So the state has this 10-year look back. And they can say, hey, we assumed you were going to finance that project at 8% and you financed it at 4%. Therefore, you don't really need all the aid we were giving you. We're going to take away a little bit of the aid because you're not spending as much on interest. And it's just an adjustment that they have been talking about doing for a long time. And we can apply for an exemption for projects. A waiver is what it's called, and we do that. But it's something that all districts have that risk. You just have to keep your eye on it, so when I propose the budget and I tell you what the building aid is going to be, that I'm cognizant of the fact that there's the possibility for these downward adjustments when the final budget's finalized.
They only will give you receipts for what was paid, correct? I mean,
That's correct. But this is the interest rate. Remember, all of our projects are financed either over 15, 20, or 30 years. So there's a mortgage associated with that. There's debt associated with that. And so they're really honing in there on the interest rate at which we borrow that money versus what they assumed we were going to borrow the money at.
what other capital projects are up
So-
that will be satisfied,
Yeah, oh, you mean the ones that will be paid off?
paid off?
That's great. So one of the things that the tax cap, when I do the tax cap calculation, there's actually a component of that forces the district to lower the tax cap by the amount of projects that are paid off. We have a whole schedule of projects, some of which will be coming off of our schedule, but others will be going on, such as the Bear Road project. And the roof project, we're going to be doing a number of roofs this summer. Those things go on and some come off, but the tax cap calculation forces you to make that adjustment.
Much for explaining that.
Any other questions or comments?
Right now, we do have a booming economy now, and it's talking about in a year or so that may not be the case. We have an excess now, which is wonderful, but in a year or so, we may be seeing a shortfall in those incomes. Do we keep a certain amount in that balance to?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the last, looking back, the district has never had a strong fund balance that's been at that 4% level. And so we've really worked hard to build our fund balance, because if we have 4%, it at least gives us a chance if the economy does, if, say, ERS or TRS rates go up or some other cost goes up or aid goes down, we can at least take a couple years to create a soft landing. The last time this happened, I think we had under 2% in our fund balance. So we didn't really have much cushion to work with. So yes, we do need to keep a fund balance approaching or close to 4%. Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Okay, Don, thank you. Item 3, comments from the audience. We have nothing. Board of Education Committee reports. Ms. Scanlon.
I have 2 things to report on. The first thing is the Policy Committee met last Monday, November 26th. Welcomed our new parent rep, Cheryl McDonald. We had 5 policies that we reviewed, and 4 are on tonight's agenda. Our next meeting is 5 o'clock. Next thing I want to report on is we had our quarterly meeting with the Onondaga-Madison School Board Association Board of Directors. Talked about the annual meeting in venue and the date change. So the biggest news that they talked about was the Onondaga County sales tax. update. It's a 10-year bill, and it's coming up again in 2020. So they're trying to get some momentum around that. The political dynamics have changed because we have a new county executive, so they want to try to gather information, help plead our cause. The new county executive, Ryan McMahon, he gave his top three priorities: economic development, infrastructure, and poverty. And the key to fighting poverty is education. So we're hopeful they're going to use the BOCES data to help. They want to pull each district how much money they're currently getting from the sales tax and what our poverty levels are.
We all lost a huge chunk of sales tax when it would be coming up 2010, because it'd be 10 years back. These are 10-year agreements. When the new county executive and new mayor of Syracuse decided they were going to keep the lion's share, and they cut the villages off, towns off almost immediately, and reduced schools to about a quarter of what we used to get. So there's hope now through Central New York School Boards and Onondaga Madison that Charlie Borgognoni, who is the executive director, can collect all that data and state the case as to why, the county claim, is always bragging about we have this tremendous surplus at the county because we've done so well. One of the reasons they did so well is they took it from school districts, towns, and villages rather than keeping that agreement. So maybe there's some hope that we'll be able to restore some more sales tax revenue coming back into the schools. So keep us posted on that, please. Paul, anything on legislative?
No, there's no new reports.
No new reports there? Anybody else with anything? Board comments? Superintendent's comments?
A couple of things. I think you have a sense from the few presentations that we've had that many of the buildings they're working on talked a lot about the Positivity Project, which is in several of our buildings. I just wanted to add to this. In making my school visits recently, I've noticed a change in a pattern, especially in walking the halls at the junior high school within the last couple. I was very pleasantly surprised and pleased that as I came across students who happened to be traveling through the hallway, every single one that I greeted me back. And in many cases, many of the students greeted me and said hello or good morning before I could even say it to them. So this whole idea of caring about each other and really working on our culture and environment, I'm seeing it like. With that, Lisa Goldberg has been working with administrators, and now they will be working with their building planning teams to start what's called a climate walk. We've elaborated and developed a checklist of things that the take a walk in January, and then another one in various places in the take a look at the culture and environment in terms of its welcoming and how we're dealing with students and staff visitors. That information will then go back to the building planning teams. So it's exciting stuff. And the last thing I just want to mention, we are having a legislative appreciation night Friday. The essence of it is to thank the legislators that did work so hard in helping to get us the penalty relief on our building aid issue. Kind of one final thing that we're bringing to light to say on this and providing some nice refreshments. Prior to the start of the JV basketball game, our boys varsity team will be playing roughly at 7 o'clock Friday evening. There will be a public presentation. Several of the legislators will either themselves or sending representatives. And I might add that we're still waiting to hear on the governor. We invited him last week, it was still under consideration. So.
Thank you, Annette. Routine action items, 5A, consideration of approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of November 19th. B, consideration of classification and school placement of disabled students. certified by the District Committee on Special Education. C, consideration of classification and placement of preschool disabled students, certified by the District Committee on Preschool Special Education. D, consideration of classification and placement of students in home instruction programs, as recommended by the Home Instruction Review Committee. And E, acknowledgement of business office reports for September 2018. I'll entertain a motion to approve 5A, B, C, D, and E as a group. Mr. Harrington and Ms. Kruger, all in favor. Discussion item 6A, 2018-19 fire inspection report. John's out there, Darren's out there, and Paul, and I'm not going to, it's either Gower or Gower, I don't know which. Gower. They're here to discuss the fire inspections that we went through. Is Mike set? Followers tonight, these two do a preliminary. Wrap one up, it's almost time to start. About a 6-week time frame. We have over 30 structures that half of it's
Height
clean.
to the ceiling,
Half of it's clean, yeah.
wallpaper the whole wall below that line.
I just want to add, that is a challenge, because
Oh, yeah.
as we look at the educational environments, there's so many things in terms of arts and,
Yeah.
and, resources and displaying student work that train the teachers, and then back to us, how do we do all that and keep it at 50%?
Anything else? John, Darren, and Paul, thank you very much. Appreciate your efforts and 6B, discussion of superintendent search process. We have in the board docs, the timeline and then the committees. So we've got this, and Bill and I worked on this. On the committees is the one I'm looking at. We structured it to get to 6 committees. It's not really practical to have more than that because of the fact that all this has to happen in one day. But we have the teacher committee that will be coordinated by John Karula. Second committee, principals and directors, coordinated by Dave Cordone and John Rice. Third is district office. Don and Jason will coordinate that group of the non-affiliated and Connie. Then support staff, we have the unit presidents, a long list of folks, and each of them will be asked to name a person to sit on this committee, and all those folks comprise bus drivers, bus engineers, custodial, M&O, food services, middle managers, office personnel, teacher aides, and teaching assistants. Students, we've got Bill Leclerc working to get us names of students whom we can invite. And parent and community, Connie, you have the list that we will look at of everybody whose name has been brought up. These people have not yet been contacted, so they have no idea they're on this list. We did have a couple volunteer, right?
I have a question. Are we going to do an application process for the parent?
We will have to discuss how we need to keep this no more than 15 people. And so we'll look at the list of names. We're not going to bat the names out here. But
Not going to be an application process on the website.
no, that's
How
not.
do we get out to people who might be?
Good question. We could put something, Bill recommended we gather names as best we could, which we did. And so that we've got names. Yeah. It will take a long, long time to, I would think, to get something out and get applications and review and then decide. So let's look at,
More important than a pool committee.
I haven't seen the list. Is it in compiled form? I do know there were emails going in. Mike had some, you had some, Aaron had some, and you had some, and others had some. So, I think we'll look at the list and then see if we really need to try to expand that or not. The parent community committee. No, we've just got suggested names. Some people have contacted us, said, hey, I'd like to do this. But it's just right now a list of names, potential folks to be on this committee. If we try to go out with applications, like we said, it took, by the time we got it out, got them back, reviewed everybody, Bill needs this stuff by January.
By January. If we were to go out and put something on the
19?
website, I don't think it's practical in that amount of time to wait for applicants to come in.
We could put something out and ask if people are interested, but again, just trying to get letters out to them with the dates they've got to commit to and get them to get back so we can build a list by January 19th. That's the date he needs because he has to put this together. We put something on the website, right? We could, but when do we?
Yeah, put a deadline on it. Put it up.
Thinking out loud. It's not an application as such, it's just somebody responding saying, I'm interested in serving on the committee. Then we can, with just minimal information of contact and why, simple, why do you want to serve on the committee? Get that on the website, that has to be back. Next meeting is the 17th, so they have to come back by the 14th. We could then see all the names on the 17th. Bad idea, I think. Somebody.
Right, I just want to make sure it's a fair process to get the word out and not just,
Okay. How do we, Work with Lori to get it up there. Well, pretty much, it's going to be that, we're seeking volunteers, the search committee for the superintendent. They have to commit to the evening of February 6th and March 7, 11, 13. Dates that they have to commit to. I think in terms of time on those days, those are going to be all evening meetings with those folks. They'll be the last interview committee in all likelihood, because they're going to be, some of them working for a living and have to come. So say they need to be available on those 4 evenings, starting, I think, at 5 on the 6th. Isn't it 5 o'clock? They have to respond back to you by December 14th. Contact information and a simple why I would like to be on this committee. No, that's a good idea, Mike. Oh, good. And you can even put on there that we will, how do I word this? Select a committee of no more than 15. After that, Bill said it becomes unwieldy, and it does. So I don't want them to think that just by sending a name in, they're going to be on the committee. Okay. May not be, yeah, that's the point. We don't know who can and who can't. So, okay, good. I also have, this is black and white. Still a color copier today. They're yours, right? Send those that away. Any extras you can keep. This is the brochure that Bill and Lori put together. It's actually going to fold to something about that size if I folded it right. Quad, he said, opens up. They expanded it from 3 to 4 pages to get more pictures. It will be in color. Here's the color version. Right there. Okay. So if you look at it, this is actually the front page and that's the back page. But if you flip it, you've got the middle of it. So there's the invitation. There's the invitation to apply, the district information, community, the big section, academics and learning, mission statement, Vision 2020, then the qualifications, desired profile that we put together, terms of employment, more pictures, interview process, timeline, etc. So this pretty much takes everything we put in with Bill when we met with him. Harry had asked about the qualifications years, and Bill thought about that and said that would open a door that might bring a lot in. That left it at that. That doesn't mean somebody else can't, but he wanted to get the fact that this is really a move-up kind of thing. So in his judgment, I let that go. I think everything is not, I know everything is on here that we talked about. He and Lori put this together. It does really look nice in color. So this is what we'll go. Remember, he's already posted this on whatever links and websites and everything he has electronically. So word is out there. Okay. You all, any questions? I thank Lori. I saw her in the hall. I thanked her, and she said Bill was very good to work with. She enjoyed it. So, but they did do a very good job very quickly. So it is. Okay. Discussion action. 7A is the agreement with Silky, Costello and Silky. That's to approve the agreement between the North Syracuse Central School District Board of Education and Dr. William Silky, Costello and Silky LLC, for consultation in the superintendent search process. B is the recommendation to create a 1.0 FTE teaching assistant at Smith Road and a 1.0 FTE teaching assistant at Cicero Elementary. You put that in the Friday letters. Anything else we need to know? Okay. Acknowledgement of gifts. North Syracuse Education Foundation gifted to the North Syracuse Central School District $782 to purchase items for the grant winner Right Brain Learning for KWS Bear Road. The NSEF gifted to the district $506.48 to purchase items for the grant winner 321 Breakout at Roxborough Road Elementary. The NSEF gifted to the district $1,823.88 to purchase items for grant winner Empowering Kids Through Movement at Lakeshore Road. The North Syracuse Education Foundation gifted to the district $833.27 to purchase items for the grant winner Interactive Adapted Books for Every Preschooler for Main Street. And Linda Dwyer donated to the district $110.76 from her entrepreneurship field trip GoFundMe. This money will be used for field trips for her CNS High School entrepreneurship class. We have a designated gift toward the scoreboard. Aspen Athletic Club has donated $3,000 to the district scoreboard sponsorship contract. Those funds will go into the special aid fund. Surplus of marketable surplus and equipment. Got some old desks and chairs. And then we have the policies that Mary talked about going through policy committee. 9010.02 sexual harassment prevention. 1500 use of school facilities for non-school district sponsored events. Amend and readopt. 5422 medical examinations for students. Amend and readopt. 8211 access to school buildings. Amend and readopt. Oh, so we'll take a motion. Whoops. To approve 7A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I as a group. Ms. Scanlon. Second, Mr. Fafalia. All in favor. Personnel, 8A. Instructional, 8B. Support staff, 8C. Administrative. Any questions, comments? Okay. Motion to approve 8A, B, C as a group. Ms. Kruger, Mr. D'Onofrio, all in favor. Motion for executive session. Motion to move into executive session for the purpose of receiving an update on negotiations with the per diem substitute bargaining unit and to review the employment record of 4 individuals with no action to follow. Motion. Mr. Harrington. Mr. Maurizio. All in favor. 8:35 by my watch.